Chapter 51. A Practical Training. Useful manual labor is a part of the gospel plan. The great teacher, enshrouded in the pillar of cloud, gave directions to Israel that every youth should be taught some line of useful employment. Therefore, it was the custom of the Jews, the wealthy as well as the poorer classes, to teach their sons and daughters some useful trade, so that, should adverse circumstances arise, they would not be dependent upon others, but would be able to provide for their own necessities. They might be instructed in literary lines, but they must also be trained in some craft. This was deemed an indispensable part of their education. Symmetrical education. Now, as in the days of Israel, every youth should be instructed in the duties of practical life. Each should acquire a knowledge of some branch of manual labor by which, if need be, he may obtain a livelihood. This is essential, not only as a safeguard against the vicissitudes of life, but from its bearing upon physical, mental, and moral development. Even if it was certain that one would never need to resort to manual labor for support, still he should be taught to work. Without physical exercise, no one can have a sound constitution and vigorous health. And the discipline of well-regulated labor is no less essential to the securing of a strong, active mind and a noble character. Students who have gained book knowledge without gaining a knowledge of practical work cannot lay claim to a symmetrical education. The energies that should have been devoted to business of various lines have been neglected. Education does not consist in using the brain alone. Physical employment is a part of the training essential for every youth. An important phase of education is lacking if the student is not taught how to engage in useful labor. The healthful exercise of the whole being will give an education that is broad and comprehensive. Every student should devote a portion of each day to active labor. Thus, habits of industry will be formed and a spirit of self-reliance encouraged, while the youth will be shielded from many evil and degrading practices that are so often the results of idleness. And this is all in keeping with the primary object of education. For in encouraging activity, diligence, and purity, we are coming into harmony with the Creator. Benefit of useful work. The greatest benefit is not gained from exercise that is taken as play or exercise merely. There is some benefit in being in the fresh air and also from the exercise of the muscles. But let the same amount of energy be given to the performance of useful work, and the benefit will be greater. A feeling of satisfaction will be realized, for such exercise carries with it the sense of helpfulness and the approval of conscience for duty well done. Students should go forth from our schools with educated efficiency, so that when thrown upon their own resources, they will have knowledge which they can use and which is needful to success in life. Diligent study is essential, so also is diligent hard work. Play is not essential. Devotion of the physical powers to amusement is not most favorable to a well-balanced mind. If the time employed in physical exercise, which step by step leads on to excess, were used in working in crisis lines, the blessing of God would rest upon the worker. The discipline for practical life that is gained by physical labor combined with mental taxation is sweetened by the reflection that it is qualifying mind and body better to perform the work that God designs men to do. The more perfectly the young understand how to perform the duties of practical life, the greater will be their employment day by day in being of use to others. The mind educated to enjoy useful labor becomes enlarged. Through training and discipline, it is fitted for usefulness, for it has acquired the knowledge essential to make its possessor a blessing to others. I cannot find an instance in the life of Christ where he devoted time to play and amusement. He was the great educator for the present and the future life. Yet I have not been able to find one instance where he taught the disciples to engage in amusement in order to gain physical exercise. Learn how to cook. Both young men and women should be taught how to cook economically and to dispense with everything in the line of flesh food. Let no encouragement be given to the preparation of dishes which are composed in any degree of flesh food, for this is pointing to the darkness and ignorance of Egypt rather than to the purity of health reform. Women especially should learn how to cook. What part of the education of a girl is so important as this? Whatever may be her circumstances in life, here is knowledge that she may put to practical use. In the mission field, culture on all points of practical life will make our youth useful after they leave the school to go to foreign countries. They will not then have to depend upon the people to whom they go to cook and sew for them or to build their habitations. They will be much more influential if they show that they can educate the ignorant how to labor with the best methods and to produce the best results. A smaller fund will be required to sustain such missionaries because they have put to the very best use their physical powers in useful practical labor combined with their studies. This will be appreciated where means are difficult to obtain. They will reveal that missionaries can become educators in teaching how to labor, and wherever they may go, all that they have gained in this line will give them standing room